Self-belief on the path of self-evolution. This is a really beautiful pointer I hope you can take value from, which is that, so let me ask you, 2 years ago, were you a more or less evolved version of you? 5 years ago, were you a more or less evolved version of you? 10 years ago, were you more or were you less evolved than you are now? It's really clear to see when we look in our experience, when we actually look with a rational eye, with a rational view. It's clear with a conscious and rational view, and when we stop, we take a pause, kind of similar to how the Buddhists and every other wisdom tradition values stopping. Stop. And they mean it in a different way. They mean stop your activity, your mind activity, your physical activity. Just stop for a moment. Just stop. They mean it in a different way. They mean it in terms of understanding our true nature as awareness, which is a bit deeper than the point that I'm making here. But we can also stop in order to think in a more clear way. Stop thinking based on your programmed thinking, because our thoughts are programmed. They sort of run round in these cycles of how we react to certain prompts or just react to anything. Our mind will react in a programmed and predictable way. But let's just stop for a second and not think in this programmed way and think in terms of, wow, actually I've evolved a hell of a lot. So why do we have this lack of self-belief in our awakening, in our evolution, in becoming a more masterful version of ourselves, and thus ultimately a masterful version of ourselves? Why do we have this lack of self-belief in this domain? Because we kind of have this, don't we? Just inherently in the human mechanism, the human, just the human functioning, and it comes down to the ego. The ego tells us that no, we're not destined for what it is that we deeply kind of know. We know we're destined for something, but the ego is always holding us back. Look back 2 years. How more evolved are you now? It's pretty big, right? It's pretty considerable. 5 years, 10 years. Wow, a different human being. A whole different human being. So we can aid our next 2 years, 5 years, 10 years by having a coating almost of self-belief, of understanding that evolution is happening, and it's going to happen. It's going to happen regardless of what we think, say, or do. It's going to happen. We're going to evolve. This is part of life. Life is intelligent. And it's creating scenarios for us all the time in our lives for us. It's always prodding us to evolve. Situations with people, life changes, even just normal day-to-day scenarios, walking out in the street that you will encounter. Life is always evolving you, and you are always evolving. You are life, and life is always evolving. So let's have some faith, and let's aid in this process that's already happening. You're going to become masterful. If we don't aid in this process and we have a lack of self-belief along the way, then maybe it will take many, many more lifetimes. But if we do decide to aid in this process by adhering to what I'm outlining and what I've outlined in this video, then maybe 2 years' time, things could be vastly empowering for us.